Good afternoon. Welcome back to Kevin Toll Reads. So today I wanted to do the video of my lessons learned in the past 6 months on YouTube doing BookTube. Dr. Logan at Novel Insights did a video a while back. I will link it in the description. Kind of similar along the lines here, and I just so happen to want to do something similar after he put his out, and it also kind of coincided with my 6-month YouTube anniversary or whatever. And so here I am. And so I've kind of broken down my notes, thoughts, things I've captured from other channels, other videos into kind of 3 categories. The first being like, here's at a high level, some things you might want to consider. Here's at a more microscopic level, like here's some specific things. And then last, what irks me? And we'll get into that. So first and foremost, there's a time element here. I mean, when you think about it, when you make the jump to say, I'm going to do some book reviews and talk about books on YouTube, you're committing time. No matter how cheaply you want to do it, whether you're doing it on a phone like me and you're just doing one take, there's no edits, it still takes time. There's a lot of time, actually. Or if you're spending time, coming up with scripts and doing all this and editing, and there's time with that. And all that time on top of doing regular time where you're doing personal reading, and then you're commenting on different videos and watching other people and then trying to build engagement, it's all time. And so that adds up very quickly. And so first and foremost, you have to be okay with what time you spend. You have to be able to, you are the only one that can assess what the ROI, your return on investment, is when it comes to how much you give versus how much you get in terms of enjoyment, engagement, fulfillment from doing this. And so I just want to preface that. That's not even on the list, but that's just kind of a thing that I just want to throw out there at the very beginning. So first thing, at a high level, these things are things that I've kind of come across that may be helpful to you if you are struggling with your channel right now, if you are starting out, or if you've come to a funk and you don't know where to turn. None of this is copyrighted. This is definitely this is stuff that could be low-hanging fruit, so to speak. It could be stuff that I picked up from other people. So first and foremost, you got to be yourself. You got to be authentic. I think people, especially people in BookTube, they can see through people quite a bit. You need to review and review what you like. I'm not on here reviewing romance books because that's just not who I am. That's not what I like. And you shouldn't force yourself to change to fit whatever is trending. And so that's a big thing. And lastly, when it comes to being authentic, you have to have a goal and you got to stick with what makes you. And so if you those are all kind of high level things and they seem kind of, well, duh, but you have to really kind of remind yourself as you branch out. Secondly, you need to be consistent. Do what you say you're going to do. If you say you're going to put out 4 videos this week, or you're going to put out a video specifically related to this, then you need to do it. I think if you start missing commitments to your audience or your subscribers or your friends on YouTube and the community, people will pick up on that, and that will turn people away. You need to, I get it. It's a hobby, but at least for me, I have standards, and if I say I'm going to do something, I'm going to turn around and do it. I don't think absences will kill your channel, but it's far easier to continue with momentum than it is to do start and stop thing. So third, engage with your community. I can't stress this enough. Whether it's simple things like I've tried to incorporate on my weekly wrap-ups by giving shout-outs to everyone that's made comments, that's a new subscriber, etc. Even if they're week over week, the same people, I'm giving them shout-outs because I want them to feel appreciated, and they are, don't get me wrong, but I want them to feel, it's just like looking someone in the eye and saying thank you, even though we're doing it online, so to speak. Use your community tab, promote other channels, especially young, smaller channels. We should be promoting each other up. I mean, that's what it's about. And participate in things. Reach out to established channels. Join forces with other channels. Like, the more you kind of create your own kind of community, the bigger it will become. And so there's definitely, there's success, just like there's misery, misery loves company type thing. There's also success likes company. We're stronger, in number. And so that's my suggestion to you. The fourth one, it's a marathon. It's not a sprint. If you're out to, I want to get to 1,000 subscribers, and that's your goal, that's great, but it's not going to happen overnight. If it does for you because you got this really cool idea and people just are all over it, then that's great. But I think those are few and far between. Another one was, you're never going to understand the YouTube algorithm. You're just not. You're going to have videos. You could do 2 videos that are almost identical in terms of what they are on different books, same delivery, same time element, and then one's going to do great and one's going to do awful. And there's not a lot you can do to say, well, why? And so it is what it is, and we'll get into some kind of smaller things that might help, but yeah, you're not going to understand the algorithm at all. And lastly, at a high level, I got to say this, and you would think, well, that you shouldn't even have to say that, but don't forget what it's about. It's about books here. Like, we're not, this is about books. I think when you start solely focused in on subs, analytics, trends, then you kind of lose sight of really what matters. And I think your content will suffer because you want to be authentic. You want it to be about the books, about what you're reading, about what you're enjoying, about what you can share with others in terms of, hey, if you like this, you should read this because X, Y, and Z. Or if you like that, maybe stay away from this one because of A, B, and C. And ultimately, we're trying to pass that information along and do it in an entertaining way to where people enjoy that and appreciate that. So now we talk about kind of more microscopic, more granular level, kind of hints, passing along some thoughts, some suggestions. Shorts do really well. They just do. If I go look into the analytics on my channel, the shorts always do well. They just do. I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that you have different social media applications where people like to scroll. Believe it or not, we all loved TiVo when it first came out. We could skip the commercials, but we're now kind of like back to where we just want to go through and just click. We're not even just flipping through the channels, on our phones. And that's really what we're doing. Longer videos don't always do well. They just don't. Unless you get a pretty big audience, subscriber base, your longer videos probably aren't going to do very well at the beginning. So that's just the way it is. Don't always do the same setting. I do a lot of videos at this setting, but people have started to enjoy some of the other settings, the trail videos, or, you have to kind of mix it up a little bit. You can't always be the same thing all the time. And people like variety. And so that's something that's very easy, but people can do it. People like seeing what other people have. And I say that because book hauls, shelf tours, Hyde and Reed did some, and Thomas do a really good job of, hey, here's some books that I have that I read way back when, but I think these aren't really talked about, and here's this collection. And people like that because it's like you're going through someone's closet and seeing what kind of clothes they got, or you're going through and seeing what kind of the library's got in it now. People like that. People like the vlogs like Ian did at Foxing and Fiction recently. He did a video where he went into this really cool used bookstore, and I was just mesmerized, and people like that. People like shiny new things. And so you can't be afraid to change it up. That's my next piece of advice. You also can't be afraid to speak your mind within reason. I've had some DNFs. I DNF'd a book today because it just didn't sit well with me. And was I apprehensive? Did I have some anxiety about that really quick video? Yeah. But at the same time, that's me. And I'm not afraid to speak my mind within reason. I'm going to be respectful and professional to a certain degree. But at the same time, I'm going to speak my mind. Don't be afraid to do that. I think that, again, it goes back to the first one. You have to be authentic. So another one that's kind of like, well, that makes a lot of sense and that's not really groundbreaking, is you have to be organized. Like, I can't stress that enough. I mean, my file that I use I've got outlines for the weekly wrap up, the monthly wrap up. I've got book review outlines. I've got lists of what I'm reading, what I'm scoring, what the short story ratings. I've got a huge file that I use for pretty much everything, to keep everything organized. I have a weekly file that keeps me, where am I at? Okay, what's my next video? Or where am I at? You have to be organized, especially if you're doing, stuff in kind of a routine. You're trying to be consistent. It helps to be very organized. And then on the flip side, like I talked about at the very, very beginning, it's an ROI thing. It's a return on investment thing about your time. The more organized you are, the quicker you can get things done and get content to your subscribers and out there, because you're organized, and you can spend more time doing reading, which is what the whole dang thing's about, right? At least I hope so. Another one was, it helps having another avenue in social media to market your channel. It does. I have TikTok. When I first started, I didn't have any. It was YouTube. And then I slowly hey, I wonder if people on my personal Facebook know that I have a YouTube channel. And so I would, every once in a while, I'd put it hey, I've just posted this video on YouTube if you want to check it out. If you I already post something about, if you like books, I am on YouTube. Here's a. But then my middle child, my older daughter, was like, hey, you should do TikTok. There's a lot of people on BookTube on TikTok. You should do that. And so I started dabbling in it. Again, it's a time and ROI thing. But it does, in my opinion, help that people realize that you're out there. And I will say, speaking specifically to TikTok, there's a huge amount of people on TikTok that are book related. Huge amount. So I think that helps. And then lastly, when it comes to the microscopic level, you need to use YouTube for what it is, which is a learning tool. And I think Dr. Logan at Novel Insights, when he did his video regarding kind of this topic, he was talking about that. And I think he's right on, because there is a plethora of information out on YouTube, specifically if you're wanting to know lessons learned from other BookTube and YouTube people. That is on there as well, and you need to use those resources. I recently started using some of their suggestions myself. If you've seen from some of my recent videos, I now have an end credit video. I now put cards up at the top, usually up here, where you see links for you can click on it and go to this video, and then I'm using those because I think the users like the ease of use. Just like when I added the subscriber button, click and subscribe type thing. I think those are all just small little tweaks that don't take a lot of extra time, but you can put them in there, and it does lead to additional subscribers, additional views, and it makes it the quality of what you're putting out there good. Again, I'm not editing my videos. This is my 7th take on this video, and I'm 14 minutes in. If I screw this up, I got to re-record the whole thing. And it is what it is, but that's just the way I'm not going to spend the extra money to do all that. Again, it's a time thing. So lastly, let's talk about what irks me. And I appreciate it if you stayed this long, and I hopefully by doing this last you have. So let's talk about what irks me. Big channels pushing Patreon, Amazon wish lists. It drives me nuts. There's big channels out there that I enjoy, that are monetized, that push all the extras and join my Discord, join me here, go to Patreon, you can get early access and blah, 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 blah. That's just not for me. And I really had a problem when I watched a video. It was a couple months ago, and it was from a channel I used to watch pretty religiously. And he was talking about, oh, well, so-and-so bought the book that was on my Amazon wish list. And that really irked me, because in today's modern society, you have teachers that can't support their own classrooms because we don't fund schools enough as it is across the nation. And so they're putting their Amazon wish lists out there as teachers because they need the support. But yet you have a BookTube channel with a guy that doesn't do this for his full-time job, who gets paid to do this, and he is putting out an Amazon wish list for his subscribers to go out and buy him a book. That doesn't sit well with me. I think it's disingenuous. I think it's a load of bollocks is what I think it is, really. But yeah, that irks me. It also irks me too a little bit when some of the bigger channels are like, well, when they are talking about their lessons learned or how much money they make on YouTube, they talk about, well, my Patreon or my YouTube, I just reinvested all into the channel. And I think that's a white lie. And let me explain. Yes, they are. They're buying new mics. They're buying, they're purchasing their subscriptions to editing software, and they're buying new lighting or whatever the case may be, or they're buying content for the channel to read and review. That's true, but they get away with the white lie of it all is because it only promotes the channel more, which this in turn creates more money. Now, do I hold that against them? No, because it's just like a business reinvesting in its own business. I understand that. I understand capitalism. That's fine. I just think it's completely, again, disingenuous to say, well, whatever money I make from my Patreons, I'm reinvesting in my channel. Well, yeah, but you're also getting the benefit of that reinvestment as well. So, like, I don't know. I just wish people would just be honest. Like, yeah, and whatever money I make, I reinvest it so I can make more money. I would rather you just say that. Like, I would have more respect for him. So, again, I don't want to create this envision that it's, us small channels against these big channel type things. And that's not the case. I like a lot of big channels, and I think they do very well. And I watch and try to learn from some of their techniques. So, but I also watch and learn from some of the things I want to stay away from. So, that's me just throwing it out there. Another thing that irks me is the clicks. It can get very clicky with some of the bigger channels. It just can. And there's very few of them that are authentic when they get to that big. And I'm sure it becomes one of those things where you kind of lose sight of why you started and what yourself is. And it's easy for someone like myself or others that watch this channel or have channels that are friends of mine on YouTube. We could all say that pretty easily through very clear eyes because we're not at that point. We haven't had to make those decisions yet. And I get that. I really do. Another thing that irks me too is the bigger channels, they love everything, especially what's trending. And I think that's a load of crap too, because I think there's some crap. I mean, I just DNF'd a book that I thought was me jumping on the bandwagon because this was so good, and no. I think you can't love everything. I don't think you're, again, back to number one, you're not being authentic. So the last thing that really irks me is when you have a channel, a bigger channel, and it seems like they are very focused on the quality of their books. And I get that. Some people are book snobs and they want the folio editions and all this. And yeah, at one point they're like, I'm reinvesting it into the channel, and people can spend their money how they want. I get that. But, and then they're buying a $200 edition of, the Sun Eater, book because, they want to have a video and talk about how awesome it is. Like, what's wrong with a used bookstore? Like, honestly, what's wrong with the used paper, mass market paperback? What's wrong with it? You spend your money how you want. That's more power to you. But for what you can buy in one book, you could buy 50 books. I mean, it's just crazy. But that's just me. Those are some of the things that irk me. And I don't want to, end this video on a negative note, but I hope some of the things that I'm talking about at the beginning at a high level and a microscopic, granular level will help you. Definitely give you some ideas, maybe temper some expectations a little. This is, again, like I said, this is not a sprint. It is a marathon. And you can't lose sight, most importantly, of what this is about. It's about books. It's about community. It's about engagement. It's about talking about what you're passionate about. So I hope this helps. I hope you're having a great day. And thanks for staying with me if you stayed this long. If you have any thoughts, please drop me a comment below. I'd love to know your thoughts. If anything else I missed, I'd love to hear it as well. So thanks a lot. Bye.